It'll kind of be like a reverse of last time. I thought so hard, by the way, about taking my mask off partway through on Friday. And I'm like, but what if somebody comes in late? So I said, I'll just keep it. I'll just keep it on. All right, so that is going live right now. So again, if your internet kind of cuts out in the middle of the experiment, that's okay. Jump in later, watch it from the point where it kind of cut out for you, make a record. We are going to be doing 6 word lists, so 6. And so if you miss some of those 6, do them later on and email them to me, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, I got to share screen. Oh, I knew I forgot something. All right, share. Sharing is caring. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start. All right, so welcome to the experiment. So here's what you're going to have to do. Oh gosh, why did you do that? In this experiment, you're going to be presented with lists of words that you will need to remember for a later test. I'm going to present you with 6 lists. After each list is presented, I want you to write down all of the list items that you can remember in any order that you want. If you are taking this on Zoom or watching this through the YouTube live video, write your answers on a Word document or on a piece of paper and send me the picture. Email it to me by this evening, please. Do you have any questions before we begin? Yes, Molly. Do you want our names on it? I do not want your names on it. This is meant to be completely anonymous. So, well, actually put your names on it so I can give you credit now that I think about it. So very good question. I had to think about that for a minute. I'm like, I want it to be anonymous, but at the same time, if I said I'm giving you extra credit, I need to know who turned it in. And that goes for you who are Zooming. Please, obviously, if you're emailing it to me, you have your name on it. Did you have a question? No? Okay, is any other questions? All right, so the experiment will begin on the next slide. Each word will be presented 1 every 2 seconds. What I would try to recommend, just keep watching the words and you will have 2 minutes to recall as many items as you can before we start the next list, okay? Is everybody ready? All right, here we go. List 1. Okay, recall all the items from the list in any order that you want. Okay, now we are moving on to list 2. Is everybody ready? All right. Okay, recall all of the items from the list. All right, now we are moving on to list 3. Everybody ready? All right, here we go. All right, recall as many items from the list as you can in any order. All right, and now we are moving on to list 4. All right, is everybody ready? All right, here we go. All right, recall as many items from the list as you can in any order. All right, now we're moving on to list number 5. Is everybody ready? We are almost done. We just got 2 lists left. All right, here we go. All right, recall all of the items from the list in any order. All right. Final list. List number 6. Thanks for hanging in there. I know this is not the most fun of experiments, but it is how cognitive psychologists do their experiments, the boring way. So are we ready? Okay, here we go. All right, recall all of the items from the list in any order that you want. All right, that's it. Okay, so all you have to do for extra credit for that is turn that into me. That's it. Now, before you do, I do kind of have a question for you. I want you to take a look at the lists for those of you who were able to recall, for those of you on Zoom who were able to watch the whole way through and recall, and those of you here in the classroom. I want you to take a look at your word list really quick and tell me if you find any of these words. Is the word rough on there? Did anybody recall the word mountain? Sweet, sleep, chair, needle. Okay, so all of those words that I mentioned, folks, they were never actually on the list. So what this experiment was, this is data that we're collecting for my research methods class. So you didn't have to participate if you didn't want to. You showed up today and you showed up on Zoom because you wanted some extra credit and you wanted to participate. This is a study that basically looks at rude. I got all of those. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you. I just basically created a false memory. So the idea is that in your mind, when you're trying to remember something, there are a web of connections in your mind. And so for some of you, that web of connections is so tightly connected together that when you see a word like honey, it activates words like sweet. And the more words that you see that are related to the word sweet, which that last list absolutely was, the more that you see those items that are related to that word, the more activation you get. And thus, for some of you, that hits a threshold where you think you saw it, but you didn't actually see it. So that is a very simple way that we can talk about false memories. There's nothing wrong with you if you did that. In fact, we're kind of hoping you recalled at least a few of them because we're trying to replicate this study, which was originally done in 1995. And at the risk of sounding a little cute, when I first started helping out as a research assistant in a cognitive psychology lab, this was actually one of the first studies I did. So, oh, I know, that's so adorable. Okay, so for those of you who are zooming in, or for those of you that may have had some issues with the internet, make sure you get those to me tonight. The experiment will be up on YouTube because we are kind of streaming this live. So if you missed anything, or if somebody had trouble connecting, but they still want to take part, you have until 11:59 tonight to get those to me, because the research method students need to start analyzing that data. It's good practice for them. So thank you very much for helping out. And we'll talk about this again when we start talking about memory. But the way I see it, we still have like 20 minutes left. We should talk about some learning and conditioning. Did everybody get the email that I sent over the weekend about the videos I filmed? Okay, if you haven't watched them, make sure you take the time to watch them. That largely covers classical conditioning. And so classical conditioning is when we basically form an association between two stimuli in which one predicts the other. So like Pavlov training a dog to basically salivate to the sound of a tone or a bell. And so make sure you take the time to watch that. Now I do want to talk a little bit about operant conditioning. We like operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is basically learning that your behavior has consequences. All right, so let me go ahead and we are going to go ahead and share that screen once again. All right, that looks nice. All right, so I talk about this all in the video, so make sure that you watch it. So now we're going to talk. Are you sure those words weren't on the list? I am absolutely 100% sure. I do this demonstration with students in general psych all the time, and I can't tell you how many times people have assumed I'm lying. I am many things, folks. A liar is not one of them. I'm a terrible liar. No, that is actually a real phenomenon. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about operant conditioning versus classical conditioning. And by the way, here's a terrible joke that often shows up on the psych department's Facebook page. How does Pavlov get his hair so soft? Classical conditioning. I know it's terrible, but the dad jokes, y'all, the dad jokes. Okay. So classical conditioning is all about making an association between two events that you have no control over. So if there's a thunderstorm that's rolling through, oftentimes you're going to find that we actually make an association between lightning and then the thunder that immediately arrives after. So how many of you are like me? And here's the thing, I'm from Florida. I hate thunderstorms. I should be used to them, but I hate them. I have also been partially struck by lightning before, so that might be why. I'll tell that story another time. But you see a flash of light, and then what do? Some of you might brace yourselves. Some of you might hold your ears. Some of you might wince because you know that the loud sound is about to appear. And that's because you have been presented with this sequence of events so often. Lightning, thunder, lightning, thunder, lightning, thunder, that you know that the presence of lightning will predict thunder. So you're prepared. Now, here's the thing. You can't control either of those events. I know that some of you like to think that you're Thor. You are not. You do not control the thunderstorm. Dee's looking at me like, I do. I don't know what you're talking about, Dr. Gilchrist. but by and large, classical conditioning is all about making associations between uncontrollable events. You do not control them. So if I play a tone and then shoot a puff of air into your eye, you don't control either of those things. Your behavior doesn't really change any of those things. And so your behavior is actually a very passive response. Your behavior doesn't modify the learning or whether or not it occurs. On the other hand, operant conditioning is when you make an association between an action and the consequences of that behavior. And this is absolutely an active response. If you do not engage in the behavior, there are no consequences. And as a result, there is not an opportunity for learning. Now, this can work in really interesting ways. So, for example, let's say that every time you answered a question correctly in class, I like chucked a Hershey's Kiss at you. And you got a piece of candy every time you gave a correct answer. How many of you would probably start raising your hands more as a result? Okay, let's assume that you all like Hershey Kisses. I know that as we've discussed earlier today, y'all are picky about your treats. But if I gave you a snack that you really liked every time you got a correct answer, you'd probably start raising your hands a lot more. Now, on the flip side of that, I can't tell you how many instances I've seen, especially from freshmen, who are afraid to ask questions in class because they've had bad experiences with asking questions in class and saying, I don't understand this, I need help. And they've learned from the consequences of that behavior that asking questions is not a good thing to do. I'm trying to shake you out of that a little bit. So one of the earliest studies of operant conditioning was done by Edward Thorndike. So what you are looking at here is what is called a puzzle box. We're actually going to watch a quick video about this. Hopefully, well, yeah, I don't know if I can pause recording or not. It just might mean that it takes a little more time to upload the video if I have to trim out the clip. But Thorndike basically would put cats into these little puzzle boxes, and these boxes had a series of levers and pulleys and platforms that the cat had to stand on in just the right way to be able to escape. Now, if the cat was able to escape, it would immediately receive food as a reward. So one of the things that Thorndike found is that at least the first time that the cat tries to escape, it's an accident. And as you can kind of see, it takes the cat about like 4 minutes to try to escape. But over time, as he repeatedly would put a cat in the box, you can see that over time with repeated trials, the cat became much more quick at getting out of the puzzle box. It was starting to learn exactly how to release itself. The first time was an accident, but repeated attempts and repeated rewards actually increased the speed with which the cat escaped the box. So Thorndike basically found that our behavior is strengthened by reward and it's reduced by punishment. So punishment always decreases a behavior. Reward will always increase a behavior. So if you've ever seen a kid in a store throwing a temper tantrum and you're occasionally wondering why the child will not stop, it's because that behavior has probably worked for that child in the past, and the child is getting something it finds reward, or the child's getting something he or she finds rewarding in that, rather than, well, why don't they just stop? They're getting attention. Maybe it's attention that they want. Maybe in the past, the parent has kind of broken down and given the child a toy. So it's worked well for them in the past. They're going to keep doing those things because they've been rewarded for them before. Behaviors are strengthened or modified by the consequences of their behavior. And this is what Thorndike referred to as the law of effect. The effects of our behavior modify whether we do that behavior again in the future. So now we're going to watch some videos of Thorndike basically putting cats in boxes and drinking tea. I'm not kidding. This is a great video. Videos. I believe this is it. Yes.
But how is it?
Oh, we got to make sure the computer is sharing that sound. There we go.
New skill learned? That was a question which began to fascinate Thorndike. To answer it, he built some ingenious puzzle boxes from which cats could only escape by operating latches.
And in you go.
So cute.
The cat appears to be very clever in engineering its escape, solving the problem with a deftly placed paw and a push of its nose.
That's like my cat.
But Thorndike didn't believe that an animal, even a clever cat, understands the consequences of its behavior. When he placed a cat in the puzzle box for the first time, Thorndike was unable to see any evidence of flashes of insight. The successful actions appeared first by chance. He proved that the apparent cleverness arose by trial and error, and used graphs to measure the rate of learning.
This is how we used to make graphs, people.
A well-practiced cat quickly recalls the actions that help it escape to its reward of food. If an action brings a reward, Thorndike believed that that action becomes stamped into the mind. In his thesis, he explained further his ideas about learning, that behavior changes because of its consequences. He called this his law of effect, which explained how even wild creatures develop new habits.
I just love what was probably the casting announcement for that video. It's basically the person who gets to play Thorndike gets to draw graphs, pick up cats, and drink tea. That sounds amazing. All right, so this was later furthered by B.F. Skinner. So Skinner basically developed something a bit more complex than Thorndike's puzzle boxes to basically study different facets of operant conditioning. So this is what we refer to as the operant chamber, or what you'll probably hear me refer to as a lot as the Skinner box. And so you can kind of see that this Skinner box actually has a variety of different things in it so that you can study different aspects related to reward and punishment. So there's a water dispenser, there's a food dispenser, there is a lever that you can actually train the animal to press. There are lights and speakers. So you can actually train an animal to press a lever only when the light is on or only when a certain tone results. Now, that is all largely based on reward. So the animal may only get rewarded under certain circumstances. One of the other things you can kind of see in this image, though, is that the bars of the bottom floor of the chamber also does contain some electrical wiring. So you can very briefly deliver a teeny tiny little foot shock to the rat or the mouse to be able to examine the effects of punishment as well. So fun fact, when I was in undergrad, I actually took a learning and conditioning class and it had a lab. I spent 15 weeks training a rat in its Skinner box for the entire semester. And our rat was named Snowball, and it was the smartest rat. Also had a very nervous habit of scratching its side and basically gave itself a tiny little bald patch, poor thing. May not have been the best environment for it, perhaps, but we can look at a lot of different ways that reward and punishment can modify behavior with the Skinner box. Now, here's the thing. When you train and when you put a rat in the Skinner box for the first time, it doesn't actually know how to press a lever. So I actually teach a learning and conditioning class here. And we obviously do not work with real rats, but we work with a Skinner box simulator and a virtual rat, like a computerized rat. And it's called Sniffy the Virtual Rat. And so one of the things that we train animals to do when they're in a Skinner box is they actually need to know how to press that lever to be able to respond. They don't come in knowing how to do that. So you have to engage in a process known as shaping. So shaping, we want to train a rat to press a lever. So what we do is we start with small approximations of the target behavior. Rats generally do not know how to press a bar. So the first thing that we do is we reward them anytime that they go to the back of the chamber where the lever is. We reward them when they rear up on their hind legs near the lever. And as we get closer and closer to that target behavior where they put their hands on the lever and press down, that's how we reward them. So we use reinforcement and reward to guide behavior to the target behavior through successive approximations. So if I was trying to teach you how to do a 3-point shot in basketball, I would first start by seeing if you could make a shot and rewarding you every time you're right near the basket. Then, once you've done that pretty well, I start rewarding you as you make clear, clean shots from farther away until you're finally at the 3-point line. Now, you can actually do this a lot with pets. So when you train a dog through clicker training, or when you train a cat to use the toilet instead of the litter box, you are probably going to be doing that with shaping. So we're going to finish today's lecture by watching a video where a psychology class has actually trained rats through the power of shaping and reinforcement to play basketball. So that's where we're going to end today. We're going to end with rat basketball. And next class, we will talk about my cat. I also have a dog. I like all animals.
We are live here at Wofford College, Spartanburg, South Carolina. We're at McMillan Theater. I'm here with Peter.
Couldn't ask for a better day here, Kenny. What's your predictions for today?
Woo, I don't know. There's a lot of talent in the rats down here. I really couldn't pick one, but we're going to have to wait and see, and the outcome's going to be unpredictable. So.
The objective here in rat basketball is to gain a better understanding of how to shape the rats or shape your subjects into doing a certain behavior. Once they get the ball into the basket, they'll get a reward in here, and that'll be their reward to reinforce the score. And so there's no clock in just the first 2:11, and 7-0 is a skunk. So Kenny, will you please do the honors?
All right, y'all, get excited. Tip-off's about to begin.
3, 2, 1. Let's play rat basketball.
All right, Steve Nash has the ball. See what he can do with it. He's got good handling skills. Joella grabs the ball. She's going towards the hoop. Could it be? There we go. ladies and gentlemen, here she goes. She shoots, she scores. Can we get a little crowd noise up in here? I want to hear this side of the room get crazy. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Here we go. And it's in.
3, 2, 1, let's play. Yeah, do it.
She's so quick.
Pandora back to a nice start. She's a fierce competitor, 5-0 Pandora. She goes for the 6th goal. That is 6-0. She is one away from the skunk.
Oh!
Let's see what she says.
That's 7 folks. Drives to the hoop. She's up. And it's in. That is 1.
Up here.
Yes. Oh, wow. Look at this. That steal. Wow. Do it. Lock out. Natural gravity. One more. There we have. That's the strong hand. That's it.
Come on, Penny. Come on, get it back, girl.
There goes Zena. 5-2. 5-3. Wow, this is quite the game. 9-4. I've never seen a match like this in my life.
Get it back,
I am truly speechless right now. Pandora's attention to the ball is 9-5 now. 10-5.
Come on, baby.
Pandora only needs one more point, ladies and gentlemen. On your feet. Here she goes. She drives to the hoop.
Do it.
And it's in. We have a winner. Now that you won the championship, what do you want to do?
Keep playing.
Alright, I was gonna go to Disney World, but hey, it's cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a really good experience, and it's a really neat way to learn about psychology.
So unfortunately, I can't really teach you that much about rat basketball, just because I have no skills taking care of animals, at least for laboratory purposes. Occasionally, I do demonstrations with my dog and my cat, so you never know. So I am going to go ahead and just call it for today. We are going to finish up learning and conditioning and start memory on Wednesday. Thank you so much for your participation. If you're here in class, don't forget to turn in your answers. I really appreciate it. Folks, have a good day, and I will see you on Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Bye.